All right, everyone, it looks like we have a good crowd here. We're going to go ahead and get going. I am super excited to be here with you. My name is Sue Cosby, and I am the Senior Director of Lifesaving Centers for Best Friends Animal Society. I've worked in animal sheltering for quite a while now. I started when I was 3 years old, about 20 years ago. And so I'm excited to actually be presenting this to you, basically presenting you what is a group of my friends, people that I call colleagues in our profession. And I'm really excited to get a chance to talk to them because I don't get to talk to them very often. So very first of all, I want to thank you all for joining the weekly COVID-19 webinar. We have these town hall presentations every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. So please continue to keep an eye out for those invitations and attend every Thursday that you like. We hope you invite others from your organizations, your friends, the people you meet in animal welfare that you want to help share knowledge to. Go ahead and get them on board with these as well. This week, we will be discussing technology solutions for life-saving. If you were on last week's town hall, there were also some great technology ideas. If you haven't had a chance to see that town hall, I encourage you to go back and take a look, which you can find at our Networks Partners page. And next week's town hall will be featuring shelter leaders who are staying the course with their COVID operations permanently. So they've made changes, they've adapted, they've dodged and weaved, and how can they continue life-saving? How can they continue fantastic services to the public while they're operating differently under COVID? They've learned a lot, and they're going to be sharing those things with you and sharing their plans of how they're going to put those practices into place permanently. And if you haven't heard, there is also now a Best Friends podcast for animal welfare professionals. Yesterday's episode was with the kitten lady, Hannah Shaw, covering all things kittens. You can check it out at bestfriends.org/podcast. And upcoming, we have got the virtual super adoption event. If you are a network partner exclusive to Best Friends network partners, on May 27th through 31st, there is a virtual adoption event. We are so excited with this opportunity to bring these virtual adoptions that people have been really putting into practice across the country and seeing success with them into a true event that's going to hopefully drive a lot of adoptions for all of our partners. We're really excited about that. And as a participant with that event, you'll receive a free lifetime account to Adopets as one of today's featured tech representatives that you're going to hear about. We need you to register your organization by Wednesday, May 20th. And we have, I think we put the registration right up in there. And if you are on this call and someone invited you and you're not a network partner, you want to go ahead and get your organization registered, apply to become a network partner, and join the fun, join the team, and get benefits like these great adoption events that are going to be coming up. When I worked in sheltering, I was a network partner, and it was an awesome benefit to be able to take advantage of all the resources that Best Friends puts together. So before I introduce our panelists, a few brief housekeeping things. Everyone has automatically been muted for the presentation portion of the webinar, so you don't have to worry about automatically accidentally unmuting yourself. And if you have a question at any point, please type it in the chat box. Questions submitted through the chat box are only visible on our end, and we may pause a few times throughout the presentation to answer questions from chat if they're relevant to the topic at hand. And we've also scheduled time at the end to answer questions from the presentation. So if they come up, we'll keep an eye on them. Keep an eye on the chat box as well to view things like the link that you're seeing there now and other additional resources that we'll be sharing throughout. Excuse me, these plus more resources will be posted on the resources section of the Town Hall webpage sometime tomorrow. I also note that this webinar is being recorded and will be available after the session via our website. And finally, after our Q&A, there's a short survey to gather feedback about this webinar and upcoming webinars to help us produce better content for you. All right, so I am going to take a moment to introduce our panelists and just get them to say hi quickly for you. We apologize, we aren't able to share ourselves on webcams today, but I will go ahead and first introduce our panelists, and then I'm going to give you guys 2 polls, and then we're going to get into some demos and some examples of how these products are actually working and what you can do with them. So first, I just want to take a second to introduce Abby Moore. She's the Chief Operating Officer and Chief Product Officer of Rehome by Adoptopet.com. Abby, you want to take a moment to say hi?
Hi, thanks for having me.
So if you've ever had a chance to go to any one of the animal welfare conferences, including the Best Friends Conference in person, which sadly did not happen this year, you may have actually met Abby Moore in person. And if we had a webcam, you might recognize her and wave hello. Abby's a great friend of mine from way back, so I'm excited to see her. And next, I have Jeremy McDonald from Adopets. Jeremy, you want to say hi?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm thrilled to be here and to talk a little bit about remote engagement of adopters. Awesome.
And Jeremy's role is as Chief Customer Officer for Adopets, which is a cool startup. He's on the East Coast, and Adopets, I think all of Adopets is located on the East Coast, Boston area. Is that right, Jeremy?
We've got a couple people remote. Actually, I guess everybody does now, but mostly in Boston.
All right. And last but not least, we have Jessica Slater, who's the founder and CEO of Adoptimize. Jessica, you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica, and I am the CEO of Adoptimize, which is an animal shelter technology that automates great intake photos from videos. And it's brand new, so you might not have heard of us yet. We are actually wrapping up our betas, and we're ready to go live. So excited to share
cool.
the results with you in a bit.
Very cool. And yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting Jessica at a conference and hearing about her product, and just think it's really revolutionary. It's something that's bringing new ideas to the table for animal welfare. So it's super exciting. So now I'm going to go ahead and jump into the 2 live audience polls. And I would like to know, what shelter software are you currently using? And that goes for even if you're a rescue, are you using any type of software? Let's hear what you actually use. There's a lot of software options out there. And I think one of the things that is an important point to make here is that you are taking full advantage of your software. So if you've been using it and you haven't been keeping your animal records up to date on live real time, using it to track your vaccines, using it to track your appointments, now is the time to get your team onboarded and fully doing that. Get rid of those pieces of paper. All right, we got a lot of PetPoint and Chameleon users here. Chameleon users, that is fantastic. To me, that means we've got a lot of municipal and attendees here, which is really cool because Chameleon is really a system that was designed for animal shelters that are pretty substantial in size. And so that's really cool. That's awesome. And then we've got a lot of people in the other category as well as PetPoint. So that's awesome. Okay, now we have another question, which is your organization currently using any of the products that we're going to feature today? So we're featuring Adopets, Adoptimize, and Rehome. Adoptimize is brand new, but there may be some people who participated in the beta testing that are part of our audience today. That'd be kind of funny. That'd be cool. And there are so many technology products out there that can assist you, that can integrate with what you're doing. I think that we could have done a day-long presentation on all of them that are available, but we're trying to bring some of the really cool new technology that's going to drive real effectiveness for you. All right. Oh, wow. Look, we got a lot of people using Rehome. That is fantastic. So you guys may know it all, but you also may have additional questions for Abby. So that's cool. That's fantastic. All right, so I am going to get started by introducing Abby and Rehome by Adoptets first. And for me, you know, when I was working in shelters and running organizations, I always would come up with challenges that we could figure out how to do things, but the work that it took to take, the time that it took, the involvement that it took to make things happen was more than we could actually achieve. And so for me, it's been so cool to see organizations out there really listen to animal welfare organizations, hear about the challenges and the problems that we didn't have the capacity to solve, and then come up with solutions to those real world challenges. So Abby, I'm going to ask this question of everyone, but I want to start out with, what is the challenge in animal welfare that you guys have decided to solve with Rehome?
That's a great question. Before I start, I just want to say to everybody who's listening, I hope you're well. I hope you're staying safe and healthy. This is such a crazy time, and I just feel like we're all in this together. And I wish that we could be seeing each other face to face at the Best Friends Conference this year. But I'm very happy to be with you today. So to answer your question, you know, as much as we would all like for this not to be the case, there are people who need to find a new home for their pet. And many of them don't have friends or family who are willing or able to help. So for them, the options have historically been limited to either use a service like Craigslist, you know, which is pretty anonymous, try to find a rescue that both has room and is willing to take a pet directly from an owner, which we know can be a challenge, or relinquish to the shelter. And so, you know, those are not great options for someone who really cares about their pet, but is being forced to try and rehome their pet. So we knew there had to be a better way. So we created Rehome to be a safe, supportive way to find a new home for a pet. And because we didn't want to create any additional problems for animal welfare organizations, we did it in a way that still supports animal welfare organizations financially. And when I say we created this to be very supportive of pet owners, I mean that the first thing we try to do is we try to help them keep their pet. And that's something that we'd really like to expand our efforts around, because it's, you know, it's preferable to all of us that pets stay in the homes where they are. If that's not the case, then we provide all kinds of support and guidance for the pet owner. So we give them everything they need. We give them, you know, an adoption application as part of the system. And we also give them the sort of automated guidance as they're reviewing applications to help them find the best new owner for their pet. And just getting back to how we support animal welfare organizations, many of you probably already know this. If I see, you know, a lot of you are participating, and that's great. The new owner does pay an adoption fee to adopt the pet, but that adoption fee doesn't go to the previous owner. Instead, 100% of the adoption fee gets donated to any shelter or rescue that referred the owner into the Rehome system. And in the short time that we've been around, we have donated over $125,000 to animal shelters as part of that program,
Wow.
which we're really proud of. And that's growing and growing.
That's amazing. And that's 100.
That's our favorite part. I mean, you know, there's a lot of things I really love, but giving shelters money is definitely at the top of the list.
That's fantastic. And do you want to show us around a little bit what Rehome looks like?
Yes. So this is the Rehome landing page that anybody can see. And the first thing that someone is going to do if they need to find a new home for their pet is click Get Started. There's a very easy onboarding process. I won't take you through the whole thing. It's a 4-step process. Once the pet is uploaded to adoptapet.com and we have on the back end reviewed and approved that pet, then this is the dashboard that appears to the pet owner. So they can see if they have a new application and any other messages that are awaiting them. And let me see, this is a test account. So let's see. You can see there's really nothing on here, but if I were reviewing this application, I would be able to see guidance popping up that would tell me why was this question asked, and some recommendations for follow-up questions. So that is the back end. This is a Rehome pet, sample Rehome pet on adoptipet.com. So you can see there's actually, here's a live one. This is the pet that has a few different photos. You can see there's an application. They can click to apply to adopt that pet. We can there we go. Okay, you can see it's really easy. It's very visual. It's easy for the adopter to fill out. And I won't take you all through this, but you can see that it's relatively fast and easy to apply. That's it. One other thing that I want to mention is for those of you who are wondering how you get involved and start referring pet owners, because as part of the onboarding process, when someone is uploading their pet, they're asked which shelter or rescue referred them. And that's the rescue or shelter that the adoption fee is donated to. So you want to make sure that you're on our list. If you go to adoptipet.com and click through to Rehome a pet, then click, which is here. Then if you click through to shelter or rescue, you will get to this page. And all you need to do is search for using your zip code or your city and state, and make sure that you're signed up. If you're not signed up, there's a link to contact our customer success people who will help you get signed up.
And Abby, I think you guys created banners or links that could be embedded on organizations' websites. So if people are reaching out to them, is that the case?
Yes, we do have some tools available. Some of them are in beta, and some of them are still widely available, but we have that one. So it's a custom link so that anybody who visits your website, if you have a section on what to do if you need to find a new home for your pet and you post this link and they click through on this link, it will automatically select your organization as the referring organization, and you don't need to rely on this person's memory. And another thing that we've been slowly rolling out is a customized list of pets that are available on Rehome by owners that you've referred. And so you can embed sort of a Rehome pet list on your own site.
Oh, that's great. So a lot of us are used to in the past do cross-posting or cross-listing or listing for people that would show up under our organization's name, but this allows you to really keep that through those individuals and not integrate it, but yet still feature it for your community. That's fantastic. And have you guys, you guys are giving out money to animal shelters. So I think the big question is, does it cost money for animal shelters or rescues to participate?
Oh, gosh, no. No. Like adoptipet.com is totally free. It's free to the animal welfare organizations. It's free to adopters. It's free to pet owners. What's not free is, to adopt a pet. Like I mentioned, there's an adoption fee that gets donated, but everything else is completely free. We're a nonprofit organization. Our mission is just to make sure that we're supporting the great work of animal shelters and rescuers and helping, hopefully, to take some of the burden off of shelters by keeping some pets out of the shelter.
Awesome. Yeah, reducing that intake. So have you guys discovered that you have any increase in activity, or what would you describe your role is during COVID?
That's a really good question. So like many of you who are listening, I'm sure, we noticed a huge change in the early weeks after COVID. So Rehome saw a huge increase in pet inquiries and in pet adoptions in those days. And we still are really, really elevated above normal. We also saw a marked decrease in pets uploaded. So that was good. It was, we seemed like more adoptions, fewer relinquishments. It's like the best of all possible worlds. Now we're starting to see some early signs that both of those are reversing. So we're starting to see more pets uploaded and some slight reductions in that elevated number of adoptions. We're also seeing a slight uptick in the number of people who are relinquishing for human health issues. And something that I think we're all worried about is what's coming next. We've all seen record adoptions, we've seen record numbers of foster homes, and that is fabulous. But is there another shoe about to drop? With the economy tanking, it's not too hard to imagine a time in the near future when hordes of pets are returned to shelters from fosters, when owners may be losing their homes and can no longer keep their pets. And when fewer people may be able to adopt a pet. So we feel like it's going to be really important that people know about Rehome as an option as early as possible, so that they're able to successfully use the service before they run out of time and have to relinquish their pet to the shelter.
Yeah, and being able to support shelters, especially those municipal organizations that may be facing budget cuts in the future, especially as we continue to work through this crisis. It's going to have a lasting impact on some municipalities. So with that, we know the future is uncertain, but there's a lot of discussion about what the future of animal welfare is. And I think that your product really helps tie in the community to Lifesaving. So how do you see, what is your vision for the future and Rehome's role in that vision?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I don't think we have time to talk about my complete vision because I could talk for an hour. But you said the key word is community. And, one key part of that vision is, the end result is that shelters are able to be what they were meant to be, temporary safe havens for lost or orphaned pets. Not sort of the I don't know, like the receptacle for cleaning up everybody's mess. And so we hope Rehome will continue to be a more and more important part of that vision as we help to sort of stem the tide of pets that are going into shelters. And then, of course, there are so many other parts to that equation. There's expanding fosters. There's this vision of pets not ever really having to be in a physical shelter because there's such a robust network of foster homes, keeping pets healthy, making sure that they're acclimated to other pets and children in the homes and getting the benefit of being in a foster home. And, of course, we all know, especially in our work at Adoptopet, that it's so much easier. You can have the same pet, but if that pet is pictured behind bars, that pet's harder to adopt out. I'm sure Jessica will be talking a lot about that too with her great product, that a photo is really important. So if you keep a pet out of the shelter environment, then that pet has a much easier shot at finding a home quickly.
I love it.
And then of course there's all kinds of.
We'll have a whole nother presentation on the vision of the future for with all right.
Anytime.
Bring it on, right? So I think our organizers are going to help get control away, and we're going to move over to Jeremy. And Jeremy, I actually want to start with the same question. What is the challenge that we face in animal care that Adopets is solving for?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity for all of you to give me your time. There's a short-term challenge, which is we're facing social distancing. We're facing a scenario where We have to operate with minimal contact. And then there's the long-term challenge, which is consumers were already moving towards wanting to engage more remotely. They wanted to search for animals on their couch, and they wanted to engage with shelters both in person, which has always been important and quite frankly will probably be even more important than ever afterwards. But there's part of the process they had become to expect because of their experiences around e-commerce and other parts where they wanted efficiency, they wanted electronic interaction, they wanted good communication, and it put additional pressure on shelters to be able to meet consumers where they are. And I think that we're not going to return to normal. We're going to return to the new normal. And it's going to converge these two trends in one. And the shelters that embrace remote adopter engagement today, because of the necessity of COVID-19, are going to be well positioned for the continual evolution of consumers looking for services to meet them where they are.
That is fantastic. So, yeah, this is the time. You know, we've talked about things like working remotely and using tools. We've talked about things like connecting to adopters and not being dependent on those face-to-face interactions. And now's the time to really accelerate it. So we're going to jump into your presentation. And why don't you give us an idea of how this works?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So Adopets makes adoption software. We complement your existing shelter software. So we're not shelter software, but we specialize in the remote engagement of adoptions, and the electronic movement of applications. So there are 5 parts of our system. There's an online application where you put your questions into it. We have a module where folks can schedule either activities at the shelter or remote meet and greets, for example. There's approval management so that you can approve an application or decline it. And then we have an e-signature part of it and a remote payment. It's important to note that before COVID-19, we were actually doing this as a comprehensive system for paperless adoptions at the shelter using QR codes and working with Dallas Animal Services and the Petco Innovation Grant that they won. And we were doing the remote adoption. With COVID-19, we're almost exclusively focused on remote adoption today, but we'll return back to those shelter operations in the future. So I'm going to go over to our system here, and this is the shelter dashboard. We're in the pet section here. So we're fully integrated with Chameleon, PetPoint, Shelter Love, Shelter Buddy, as well as you can bring in animals from Pet Finder. And so you continue to manage your animals as you would today, and putting in their photos, their descriptions, etc. You specify to us what available animals you want to bring in. And then what we do is we publish these animals in a way in which people can apply electronically. And so I'll go up here to a pet listing page. And there's 2 ways this page can exist. It can exist on our servers with your branding. You can change all of this to yours, or it can be on your servers. So here's Maryland SPCA. They've done an absolutely phenomenal job through COVID-19. They have 2 animals available, but these are all of our search filters. And if you clicked on any of these pet cards, you'd be able to adopt the animal, but it's actually within their site. A quick note here, the virtual super adoption event, they're using this technology. So when you put animals available, this is going to show up on their event site as animals to adopt. So that's how it ties together. But what you'll note here is that you can click and save animals. And it provides a nice way for adopters to be able to have a short list, right? I mean, you're looking at animals at night, and in the morning time, you want to speak with your significant other and your kids, and you can see an animal here. It pulls in again all the photos, the description of the animal from your shelter software. There's a video, it places it in here. And you'll see here that they can apply to adopt. Now, at this stage here, I've got just a short application, but the reality is we put your application in here. And a neat thing about it is that once adopters have already answered questions, we remember them for the next time. So we're going to see this application on the shelter side here in a minute, and you're going to see that I answered many more questions during one of my previous adoptions. So the adopter has sent an application. We go back. Now we put on our hat as a shelter, and we've got an adoptions area, and it's organized by new adoptions, adoptions that are in process, and adoptions that are approved, some of them awaiting payment, like the yellow ones, some of them just awaiting pickup. But we'll click here to look at Max. It's organized that if there were multiple adoptions for Max, it would show up right here. It's timestamped so you know when it comes in. We confirm that we want to look at this. And what we see here is a dashboard of Max. If there had been multiple applications, there would be statistics here. If there had been ones that were declined or withdrawn. And just though we've got the current application, but if there were more of them, we would see them there. So we click on that. It turns out that Jeremy really loves animals, and so this is my full history. So I have been approved, paid, adopted multiple animals. Nobody is probably going to have this active of a profile, but because of my demo account, I have it. And now I'm in the application. And so here we're seeing that there's different phases of the application. We receive it, we start review, and when we're ready, we're going to approve it. Now, before we do that, at each stage, we have smart email responses to automate the communication with the adopter. So I'll go over to my email here, and we'll see that when I send out my application, there's already an automated email that we read. And this will be your branding and your language in here. But for example, now a lot of folks are doing appointment-only basis. It makes it extremely easy. And also, at the next stage, we started it, so here was the next smart email, which was it's under review. If you're doing appointment only, we can put your scheduling link right in here so that folks can get into your calendar to be able to do a remote meet and greet or adoption counseling. So we'll go back to the system. And we've got information here about the pet, about the adopter. And before we get to the application, which they filled out, we've got a note section. So we can say that Jeremy is checking if he can fence his yard. This is a private message board. So if any of your employees come back and talk to this adopter, they can look at the information that has been learned on another call and just say, hey, he called to confirm. And so there's a private message thread internally only. And so while you're talking with an adopter and thinking about whether you should adopt to them, you've got your questions. These can be very long set of questions or short. But you'll note that I did not answer these mentions before. So there were a bunch that were remembered for the first time. And also at your fingertips is the previous applications. I'm going to go ahead and approve. And I could adjust the adoption fee if I wanted to, or I can add municipal licensing. In this case, I'm just going to simply approve it. And we found Max a home. So Jeremy, meanwhile, has waiting, and Adopets has sent an email. Hey, Jeremy, your request to adopt Max is there. And right here is a link to the contract. So we put your contract in here, and we pull it up. We can put medical waivers, releases, whatever you want them to sign can come in here. And as you go through it, they end up clicking it. It's very much like DocuSign, but you don't pay for it. And he'll end up signing it, and it will take them to the checkout page. So they can download their contract here if they want to see it. Clicks on make a payment. In this case, I've got a credit card in here. You'll notice the adoption fee is here. We have an optional donation. Currently in the last week, 54% of people were donating. Average was $5. I'll leave that at $5. The software for Adopets is free, and you'll note that unlike normal credit card processing, they take money out of your donations or whatever you're doing. We don't do that. There's a processing fee which covers the credit card processing. If there's a free adoption, there's no processing fee. It's cash, no processing. but if there's a credit card fee, then it's down here, and a small part of that is Adopets processing. And so with that, we'll end up confirming the payment, and we go back, we'll reload the page here, and we'll see the updated side here. So as a shelter, you've now remotely engaged them. You yourself, the last step here is to pick up the animal. Before you'll do that, you'll click on the signed contract, and you'll receive a full audit trail at the bottom about your organization, the animal, the adopter, timestamp, IP address, and signature, and you say they're good to go. You schedule a time for pickup and adoption. That's the fastest adoption that I've ever done on it. So thank you for putting the pressure on to go through it quickly.
Yeah, it looks like there's still a lot more that people could do. And you said that this worked both in facilities and for remote adoptions. So that what are shelters that maybe in the past used to do most of their adoptions on site, or maybe had to hustle back and forth with foster parents and emails? What do shelters see when they're using adoption? What impact are they seeing when they're using Adopets?
Well, for the remote part of the engagement that we're currently under, and there'll still always be a part of remote engagement of adopters, it's really about automating part of that and making it a smooth experience. So it's rather than having to patch together, 5 different systems to do contracting and payment and applications, you have one system that makes it very smooth. And so that's the main part. Within the shelter, it's about going paperless. So we have, QR codes that we can add to kennel cards. And so from any of these, we can look at the kennel card and you can print it, and it automatically comes with a QR code. These are customized, and unfortunately I chose animal no image, but when you're there in person, somebody can now pull out their phone. They can schedule either a meet and greet and get on a wait list, which we have developed as well, or they can apply paperless. And so even when the shelter's operating, you still go to your adoptions and you manage them the same way. And so what we're seeing is that this is very convenient for right now, but whatever the balance is, whether it's 80% of adoptions happening in person or 80% starting remotely, you'll want a system that's going to unify both processes.
Well, that's great. So I want to wrap up with, the vision of the future for animal welfare, and what is the vision for you that Adopets is helping achieve?
It's really about enabling efficiency within the operations and happiness of the adopter. We want the adopter to feel like the shelter has provided them great service, that they're happy, that they want to be part of that shelter's community for the long term. And our role in that is enabling a smooth process, whether that is meeting the adopter where they are at home or providing an efficient process in person. And as much as we can, automating things like those smart emails. If you think about, you do 1,000 adoptions a year and you may do many more, many less. There are 5 emails for each of those, just 1,000. It's automating 5,000 emails. And your staff, their time is so valuable, they can put it towards life-saving efforts and focusing on making the right match between the animals. And so we want to enable shelters to perform that life-saving role with as little paperwork as possible.
That is great. Okay, so I am going to move on to Jessica and Adoptimize, and we did get a few questions, and I want everyone to know that I am keeping an eye on them, and we'll do answers to those towards the end. So Jessica.
Hello.
The same question for you. What is the challenge we face in animal welfare that you essentially invented Adoptimize to solve?
Well, it's really hard to get a good photo of a stressed out dog at intake, and it's even harder with a cat. And so the issue is that these bad photos are populating online and they don't showcase the personality of the dogs. So what Adoptimize does is we automate great intake photos from a video to increase adoption rates, certainly significantly increase return to owner rates and reduce operating costs for shelters. And yeah, that's exactly what we do.
So it is kind of revolutionary. What I liked about it a lot was that I had never really seen anyone bring this solution to the table before. So why don't we get you sharing your screen so we can really see what Adoptimize is all about.
All right, am I sharing?
Yes, you are.
Cool. Let me do the big thing. There we go.
Right.
So with Adoptimize, most shelter photos can look like this in just 60 seconds. And I'll show you how this whole system works in a sec. But the way it works is that we use an AI-powered camera. It's either a webcam or a phone, and the software takes a video, 30 seconds about. Our software finds and edits the best shots for you, and then you have the images that you can just upload into PetPoint, Chameleon, Shelter Love, however you upload photos now. There are no more animal control officers manually taking photos with cameras from 2002. I think we've all seen this. Our technology significantly increases adoption rates, and this is the same dog here. This is a dog from Stockton. We've been in market for 8 months in beta, and we've processed about 4,000 dogs across the U.S. And the results have been, quite frankly, they've even impressed me.
So can I just ask you, going back to that husky,
yeah.
it's the same dog, and is that in the same building, in the same location to get? Okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, this is the front of the house, and this is the back of the house where they do all the intake. But what we do is we take away that background that most shelters have, and we replace it with a cute background. Our theme is rainbows, so they look really happy. They look really happy.
Awesome.
So at Palm Valley Animal Center in Texas, they actually saw a 150% increase in dogs reunited with their owners. In Palm Beach, Florida, at Peggy Adams Animal Rescue League, they saw a 43% reduction in length of stay, which for them saves them $360,000 a year in cost of care. And in El Paso, Texas, which is, they process about 27,000 animals a year, they saw a 181% increase in adoption rates in just the first month. And to be very clear about what these numbers are, these are numbers comparing dogs that went through Adoptimize to dogs that did not go through Adoptimize. And the design of the study was to be about 50-50. As much as the animal shelters could put the dogs through, they did. So this is not selecting the cutest ones to go through. This is literally as much of the intake that they could put through as possible.
So it's not compared to like previous year on this week. It's really running simultaneous studies at the same time of, is this providing better outcomes for animals?
Right, because I mean, everyone's doing such a good job with Lifesaving right now that doing a longitudinal study isn't really the best way to measure. We do have those. We're doing those with a couple other shelters just because it's appropriate for them, but it's what we really need to compare apples to apples, right? So let me show you how this whole thing works. Okay. So this is this is the Adoptimize system, and let me show you. So this is the video of this husky, and it's actually the husky you saw earlier. And you can come up here, and you can actually see how the algorithm thinks. It ranks its best to worst shots here, and so these four are great, and then this last one's a butt. So you can see how that actually works. And then we automatically edit the top four for you, and we put the A number or the name on the actual image so it follows the dog around the internet. So this is the image that gets uploaded to Facebook. You don't lose the information connected with the dog. I know that's particularly helpful with the A numbers. And then you just click to download your favorite one, and then you have it there. It's literally that simple. It's fast, and that's the whole design, is to make it easy.
That almost looks too easy.
Yeah. So one of the questions that I get usually right there is, oh, is this a physical installation? And the answer is, the the beta shelters, the 5 beta shelters that we did this with, do have physical installations, but we are actually hoping to move to mobile. And with this, I'd love to show you what's coming up. Adoptimize Foster. So Amazon Web Services and Best Friends Animal Society were super generous, and they are sponsoring Adoptimize to adapt our technology for the foster use case, because right now there's so many pets in foster, which is amazing, but we want to empower your fosters to be able to help you. So this is actually going to be live by June 15th, but I'm going to actually show you how it works. So the goal here is to enable your fosters at home to be able to use the phone on their camera to take a video and then upload it to the website, and then we'll return the good photos. So this is literally the first demo of this website I've done for a live audience. So it's really brand new. So shelter name Best Friends, and let's call this Maxie. So I'm going to upload a video. I can show you the video later when it loads, but say this is the video on my camera. We upload it here. They've emailed me a link. I'm trying to get my reminders to go away. Maxie's page is ready. View your dog's page. And at this point, it's when we start processing the video, and that's a security feature. And while we're processing the video, we show your fosters adorable gifts from our friends at Giphy. Oops, sorry. And they're random gifts, so we actually don't know what's going to come up, but they're all rated PG or less. Adorable. And the timing of this upload is a lot like YouTube. It depends on how big the file is, and the file I just uploaded was pretty big. So here we have it. This was the video. This is another dog from Stockton. It shows this dog because it shows him moving around, and so I want to demonstrate that we find the best shots here. Raw shots, which your fosters can manually edit, but then you have your 3 shots, and ideally they email you this picture of Maxie, which you can then go post on Rehome or on adoptpet.com, Pet Finder, and upload into your animal management system.
That is amazing. How much does this cost organizations to utilize?
Ooh, Adoptimize Foster is free, which is awesome. I'm very excited about this. Yeah, I'm really excited. For the enterprise version of Adoptimize, the software that is in the shelter, we charge, so it's a pay-for-performance model. We want to tie our success to that of our customers. So we charge $1 per adoption and transfer, and then $3 for return to owner outcomes.
Okay. All right. So you are really still early on in developing this system, but have you been able to find with the organizations that you're working with benefits for organizations during COVID?
Yes. So we, for Stockton, the city of Stockton, they take in about 10,000 animals a year. In the month of March, they actually started their foster program. We actually saw a 57% increase in adoption rates for Adoptimized dogs, a 25% increase in RTOs, which I know like a lot of people are not doing right now. And then the dogs for Adoptimize had a 98% chance. They're double the 98% increase in foster rates. So that's also our first foster study that we've been able to actually do. And I mean, it makes sense. Like if somebody's going to click on this dog, we actually did a study with Adoptopet earlier this year on engagement on the website, and we saw that Adoptimize dogs receive double the amount of time on their pet profile pages on adoptpet.com, and then they had a 53% increase in unique views, so potential adopters. And it's because these photos are cute. They're bright. They catch your eye, and they show the personality.
They are, and when you're scrolling through a lot of photos, ones that stand out are they're super critical. And throughout the years of animal welfare, we really worked on how do we, teach people to be professional photographers, and that's just not going to be realistic for every organization, especially organizations that are really hustling to get as many animals through as possible. And to save those lives. So this is super exciting. Is there anything more that you wanted to show, or can I ask you my wrap-up?
Yeah. So one thing to note is that this doesn't completely replace your amazing volunteer photographers. But what it does is it gets a good photo online faster. And for some pets, getting a photo online is kind of a matter of life or death. If they don't get one, can't wait a whole week for the volunteers to come back and take the best shot. So it really fills that gap. Yeah. So one other question that I usually get is, what about cats? So, the next thing that we are doing is we are moving to mobile. I'm going to show you the prototype. This is not built yet, but so what we have right now is dog facial recognition, and we put some cats in front of it, and Adoptimize came back and said no dog detected. And well, great, like it's doing its job, right? But so what we're going to do is we're going to build in cats, and what you're seeing here is one, us moving to mobile, and two, this is our app using your stereoscopic camera on your iPhone to create depth maps. So it makes Adoptimize completely species agnostic. You could do your guinea pigs with this too, and it's so much faster. And hey, you got a cat. So that's where we're going.
Love it when nerdy people get involved in animal welfare. It's my favorite thing. That was the nerdiest thing I've seen today. Thank you.
Yeah.
So everyone's got a vision of what we can be in the future, and how do we change the future of animal welfare. So what is your service doing to achieve that vision?
I think that there's a way that we can position these animals to get them adopted in a really positive light. And I think that if Adoptimize was in all the shelters, there would be kind of a shift on the way that people feel about animal shelters, and like those sad ASPCA commercials, which I personally don't believe are that effective, although I know that they are financially. I think that there's a way that we can position it so that shelters are happier places, or that the public believes that shelters are viewed more positively, and we'll have more people coming to shelters.
Awesome. All right. So I guess we're going to go back to our boring slide. There we go. We'll take that presentation away, and I am going to run through some quick questions. Many of them were actually answered in the chat, but I'm going to run through a few that we want to get some answers directly from you guys on our call. The first question is for Rehome and Abby. Who sets the dollar amount for adoptions that are completed through Rehome?
That is a great question. That's kind of a constant work in progress. So we set those. We set up an algorithm. We have adjusted it over time. The adoption fees vary from $129 for puppies all the way down to like $20, $25 for special needs cats. And so there's kind of a sliding scale. We're constantly trying to find that sweet spot of make it easy and affordable, but not overly competitive with shelter and rescue adoption fees. So that's sort of how we have arrived at this. I did a whole bunch of interviews with shelters and rescues from all over the country, trying to zero in on what is the best pricing for adoptions. And this is where we currently are.
That is cool. And I remember working with you back during exploring what those fees were. And
yes.
There's a lot of variation in different areas of the country. So the science you put behind it is really fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question is for Jeremy and Adopets. When we do an adoption, there are medical records, rabies vaccine certificates, and proof of spay neuter that do go with a pet. How do medical records play into the Adopets transaction flow, or is that something that organizations need to think about separately?
Thank you for the good question. And so we attach any of the documents that you would like to transfer into the adoption package for the adopter. And so we'll bring that straight in from your shelter software, and we include it if you'd like them to acknowledge it in the signature phase. And if it's not acknowledged during the signature phase because you prefer not to, then we can still send it to them with the post-adoption package.
Very cool. I've got another for Adopets. Some organizations just are able to take, they like to take general applications to review that may not be for a specific animal. So maybe it's applications for someone who is thinking of adopting, but I haven't seen the animal that I'm looking for right now. Does Adopets have that capacity?
In June, we will. So we've built a Meet Your Match feature, which enables you to put in a generic application for the work that we've done with Dallas that we get to share with everybody else. And so with that, which is the June release, you'll be able to take a generic application, have a adoption counseling call with them, choose the right animal. And in our system, there is a private page for each one of the animals. And so you can copy that link, send it to them as a short list, for example, of here are 3 animals for you to consider, with the direct link for them to be able to apply for it.
All right. And does Adopets have the capacity to link to Square for payments, or are they all actually processed through Adopet system?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. So we do support third-party payment processing systems. If you're looking to do something, in the short term, for example, for the event in 2 weeks, then temporarily I would suggest you use the current integration. But we've integrated with several other systems, and we're open to be able to do that, and we support other systems if that's your long-term strategy.
All right, great. And when organizations have application questions in Adopets, is there a branching feature for the question? So if yes, then you see another question, or is it really a static list?
Well, we can configure it the way that you want. And so if you'd like it to be an if-then question, then we'll set it up that way. If you would prefer just to have a series of questions, then we support that. So it really depends on the operational decision of the shelter to make the choice, and then we support how the questions work because they're completely customizable for each individual shelter that we work with.
All right, and then could you go over again to what software systems that you do work with?
Sure. So we work with Shelter Buddy, which has a full 2-way integration. So we take in all the animals. We also do the outcome directly into Shelter Buddy. We work with Chameleon with a full 2-way integration. So we take in all the animals. We can also send back all the outcome data. When we talk about outcome, we mean creating the new adopter profile, sending the receipt, sending the signed contract. So those 2 systems are full 2-way. PetPoint, we have a conversation going with them, which is we've been doing in partnership with Best Friends. And so we expect the 2-way integration with them shortly. Currently, we take all the animals in, and then you do the outcome as you would today. But in short order, you'll be able to do the outcome automatically. Shelter Love, we do all the animals into the system, and you also, similar to PetPoint currently, you end up doing the outcome as you would today, but we also anticipate that our conversations with them will lead to the 2-way outcome. One of the things, sorry.
That's great.
Super.
All right, and I want to pull in Jessica. Jessica, there's the same question about what software does it work with, and it sounds like from what you described, and I just want to confirm that the pictures are really uploaded into whatever software system you are using, almost just as they are now. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the way it's set up is if you have PetPoint, you're on the internet, and you'd have Adoptimize open in another tab, and you literally just click to download into your downloads folder, and then you click to upload in pet point from your downloads folder. It's really fast. For Chameleon, for people who are not on Chameleon Web, we have local versions of Chameleon installed on the computer that uses Adoptimize, and they're able to download the ACOs and ACTs are able to drag and drop similarly. It just needs to have access to Chrome web browser.
All right, that's fantastic. And I want to go back to Abby and then Jeremy. We're in the US right now. Abby, is Rehome available for Canadian users?
Not yet, but it is coming. So hang in there.
Okay.
We really want to expand to Canada and beyond.
All right, great. And Jeremy, what about Adopets?
Yes, we actually started internationally with Humane Society International, and we have operations in several countries, and we are able to support Canada.
Fantastic. Jessica, I'm assuming that we can take pictures in any country, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So I think I'm just doing a double check to make sure that we've got the questions. It looks like there's maybe still a few more coming in. All right. I think that these are the ones that we can answer really easily, unless the organizers are able to send any more through to me. This looks good. You guys, I just want to make sure I covered all my questions. I got one more here for Abby. And I think that you made this clear, but I just want to double check. The person who wants to rehome their pet, does that person own the post, or does a shelter have to do anything to manage postings? I feel like you've answered that in the question. And the answer is the owner owns it. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep. Shelter has no responsibility whatsoever.
Perfect. So check out the links in your chat. Sign up for these services, give better customer service, get more pets adopted and reunited, take better pictures, do it all better. Thank you guys so much. I think that we're at the end of time. So I can't thank everyone enough for attending, and I really can't thank our presenters enough for really supplying this information. I love all of your products. I'm excited to be an enthusiastic advocate for all of you, and I can't wait to see your products in action, especially seeing Adopets around the adoption event. So everybody join the adoption event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.